Hey guys, it's Trina and this is my reading wrap up for the months of July and August. I'm going to give you small short reviews of all the books I've read in the past 2 months. In the month of July, I read a total of 8 books. In August, I read 12 books. And there were 2 books that I did not finish. I'm going to start out with the books that I DNF'd. First was Tess of the Road by Rachel Hartman. This is YA fantasy and it's like a very restrictive society and the main character is kind of rebellious and she's being sent to a nunnery because of her behavior. What I did not know going into this is that this is actually a companion novel to her Serafina series and I have not read that and I didn't know this was a companion, and I do feel like you need to have read that to really grasp everything that's going on in here. Different fantasy creatures and habits and stuff were popping up and I had no idea what was going on. I feel like it's not a bad book, it just wasn't for me because I didn't have an experience with the world previously, and I was getting kind of irritated reading this because there was so much sex shaming and fat shaming, and I know that the point of the book and the main character are that they're going to combat those ideas, but there was just so much of it. It was so heavy-handed. I wasn't connecting with the character or the world. I felt like I was missing something because I hadn't read those previous 2 books, so it was too irritating for me to continue. I also DNF'd My Name is Memory by Brashares. Sporadically throughout this year, I've been asking for my Twitter followers to just name random numbers, and I go to my Goodreads TBR and I see, like, you know, what book placement on Goodreads aligns with the numbers that they have chosen, and so this was one that came up and I hated this. Like, I just really did not get into this. I didn't connect with it at all. The premise is so interesting. It's about a guy that is reincarnated every lifetime, and throughout all of his lifetimes he keeps seeking out this woman that he fell in love with in his first lifetime, and that sounds really cool, this idea of soulmates throughout past lives. But it didn't work with me on paper. Brashares skips around from first person to third person constantly, and so I don't know, the narrative style did not work for me. The point of view of the guy that's being reincarnated, just like, it rambled on. And a lot of people and reviews that I started looking into to kind of see if I wanted to continue were saying that the ending was really lackluster, and I was like, I don't want to sit through a book I'm not enjoying for an ending I probably won't enjoy, so I quit. I binge read the Mila 2.0 trilogy by Debra Driza. This was another of those random numbers on Twitter picks. I just read the first book and I liked it enough to go ahead and get the second and third books on audio because they were immediately available at my library, so I just kind of blew through all of them. It is Mila 2.0, Mila 2.0 Renegade, and Mila 2.0 Redemption. That's the order of the books, and these books are about a girl who finds out that she is really an android. I'm always pulled to books that are about androids believing that they're human. I liked it. If you like that concept, I think it definitely explores it very well. I also binge read the Graceling series by Kristin Cashore. The first book is Graceling, the second book is Fire, and the last book is Bitter Blue. This is a fantasy world where different people are called Gracelings because they're born with different graces. They have different abilities, different powers, and they're so incredibly different. Like, one character may be graced with survival, one character is graced with disguise, one character is graced with something pretty mundane in this world, like they are an exceptional baker. And so these Gracelings are usually sought after by the kings of the different lands in these realms because they want to use them like as weapons. And so in Graceling, the first book, we're following Katza, who is skilled with death. I listened to the audiobooks of all 3 of these. Graceling is by and far one of the most well-produced audiobooks that I have listened to ever. There is a full cast of narrators that are reading each character's voice as it comes up in the dialogue, so it's like you're listening to a play. The other 2 books weren't on that level of production. These are just like a basic one narrator is reading it. All 3 of these main characters were amazing main characters. I just really love this series and I'm sad that it's over. And because I love that series so much, I went ahead and picked up Kristin Cashore's latest work, which is Jane Unlimited. I don't even know how to describe what's going on here. It's like a YA choose your own adventure story. It starts out very contemporary-ish, and there's like a point in the story where the main character could take all these different paths, and then the story like stops. It'll follow one path, get to the end of that, go back and follow another path, get to the end of that. So you're getting this story in different possible outcomes, and each one of them is a different genre. One of them is sci-fi, one of them is fantasy, one of them is horror, one of them is like action adventure. I absolutely loved it, and the things that happen in those different timelines are so weird. Like, this is the weirdest book, but it is so well crafted. It's so amazing, and I'm like, this is why fiction exists, to explore these really weird, mind-blowing concepts. And I'm just like, I'm so in love with this book. It was wild. I loved it so much. I am really liking Kristin Cashore books. I read Entwined by Heather Dixon, which was another of my random Twitter number picks. This is a YA retelling of the tale The 12 Dancing Princesses. It's about 12 sister princesses. The first one needs to be married off to save her kingdom. Their kingdom is in mourning, so dancing is forbidden, but they find like a portal to another realm, and they go there every night to dance the nights away. There's a plot beyond that, but it starts getting more complicated. I don't want to tell you everything about it, but if you like fairy tale retellings, I definitely think you will like this one, especially if you like ones that feel a little bit more traditional, where it is really based on the main original text, but it just expands upon it. It doesn't totally change it and make it a different genre or anything. This definitely does have a fairy tale feeling. Another of the random Twitter picks was Things We Know by Heart by Jessi Kirby, which is a YA contemporary story about a main character whose boyfriend died and his organs were, you know, given out as transplants to people who needed them, and she has made contact with the recipients of most of his organs except for the boy that got his heart, and she ends up running into him accidentally on purpose, and he does not know who she is, but she knows that he received her old boyfriend's heart. It's a very summery romance. Like, there's a lot of time spent kayaking and on the beach and in the ocean and stuff, so I definitely loved it for that feel because I read it over the summer. For contemporary romance, this was really cute. I really loved that the main character knew she was being deceptive and she struggled with that, and I really liked it. I don't know, that's all I can say. It was really cute summer read. If you're looking for that, this will definitely fit it, and it's pretty quick. I read From Twinkle with Love by Sandhya Menon, and this is amazing. I really loved it. This is about Twinkle, who is an Indian American high school student. She loves films, and she ends up working on directing and making her own film with one of her classmates. And he has a big crush on her, but she has a crush on his twin brother. So it's kind of a messy thing there, and this is just so cute. This is told like through Twinkle's diary entries. This really sucked me in to the ego part of it, like the things that Twinkle struggles with and the way that her friends and peers call her out, like the way she's acting and how she's like, no, I'm not doing anything wrong, and then maybe I am. I'm like, oh, I feel you so much. Like, this is me. Things that I've struggled with too. I loved it. I loved it. I loved the feel-good romance side of it. It was very swoony. I loved the main character, and I loved the message. I read I Have Lost My Way by Gayle Forman. This story takes place over the period of 24 hours. It follows 3 different characters who are strangers, but they have a run-in collision with each other in the park, and they end up spending the whole day together and becoming amazing friends. And I really loved seeing how this bond formed. Like, all 3 of these people needed something specific in their lives that day. They were all struggling with something, and they all were there for each other because no one else was there for them, and they just like were in each other's lives like at the perfect time, and I really liked that about it. My only real complaint is that the narrative switches around from first person to third person, and I looked through the print book and it does make sense when and where that is happening, but in the audiobook it didn't, and so that threw me for a loop, and I didn't really like the narrative choices all the time, but I did enjoy the story and these 3 characters and their bond. I also read Anger is a Gift by Mark Oshiro. This is about a teenager who, his father has died from police brutality, and he is dealing with a lot of anxiety about that. He is in a low-income school that is very underfunded, and this school is basically like criminalizing the teens that go there. And there's a lot of police brutality that happens even within the school from their like security guards and the school's police officers. And so he is, you know, building a protest against that. And this is a very brutal and very devastating read. Like, I cried, but this is also a very powerful, very, very moving read. It's doing so much in it. Like, there was so much intersectionality and representation, and just like, I was like 25% in the book and I was like, this has covered so many different things already. It was amazing. It had amazing adult involvement from the teachers and the parents that I really, really loved, and it was just really well written, and I was like really into it and really felt for these characters. They felt real. If you can handle the subject matter, you should read it because it was amazing. I read The Book of Blood and Shadow by Robin Wasserman, another of my random Twitter picks. This has been on my TBR forever because I read one of her early series and I was just kind of curious in more of what she had written. This is an action adventure-ish thing. There's like this ancient society and then one that opposes them, and there are these clues that the characters are trying to figure out, and they have to travel and go like find older locations and clues and artifacts and stuff. I just didn't really like this one. I felt like it was a bit slow, so it's kind of a disappointment, especially after waiting so long to have read it. I read Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan, which is the third and final book so far, at least in the Crazy Rich Asians series. I really think I felt the same about all three books in this series. Like, they were middle of the road for me. They were good for what they are, but I didn't love them. I do think I liked book 3 the best. If you like kind of soapy family dramas, that's really what these books are, so they're good for what they are. Everything else I read are mysteries. I mean, I guess this is a mystery, and I guess that's sort of has a mystery in it, although I don't think it was a great mystery. But next is Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. I read Night Film a while ago. I loved it. This is her recent YA release. I had no idea what it was about, so if you don't want to know what it's about going in, that's great. Skip over this next little bit that I'm going to say. But it's about a group of teenagers who get into a car wreck. They go home. There's a knock on the door, and it's this old man who says, hey, y'all actually are laying almost dead on the side of the road. You didn't really make it home tonight, and you are now stuck in the Neverworld, and you're going to repeat this same day over and over, like Groundhog Day, until all of you, all 5 of you, can make a group vote on the one person that gets to survive. I really, really liked it. The only thing I didn't like about this is I feel like the ending could have been just a little bit creepier. It could have had just an extra little punch. I read The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. I love Ruth Ware's writing because she hooks me in, and The Death of Mrs. Westaway was no different. This is about a girl who is like really down on her luck. She's really short on cash, like she's about to get evicted. She gets an invitation in the mail that says, hey, your grandmother died and you were named in her will. Please come to her creepy old house with the rest of your family that you never knew you had and see what you've inherited. And she's like, this isn't my grandmother. My grandmother died before I was born, but like the names are so similar, I could possibly pass off as her actual granddaughter. I did really like this as a mystery. I feel like this was the most fulfilling of the 4 books by Ruth Ware that I've read so far. It is my favorite of her 4 so far. It isn't outlandishly mind-blowing. I did predict a lot of what ended up happening, but it was still so twisted that I had trouble like untangling everything. I especially think you will like it if you like, you know, a throwback to like old-fashioned murder mysteries where everyone's kind of enclosed in a single house and the house is so creepy. It's like its own atmosphere, its own character. Ruth Ware does atmosphere really, really well. I read The Elizas by Sara Shepard, which is her new adult mystery. This is about a woman who is pushed into a pool, and she wakes up in the hospital later and she swears somebody pushed her, but her family doesn't believe her because she has a history of trying to drown herself in pools. And the way that the mystery unfolds was my favorite part of this because the main character is an author and her first book is about to be published. And so you read parts of her real world story and then you get snippets of her book. And it's like the characters in her book are mirroring events in her life that she has written into the story, I guess. And I know there are several other books out there that do that, but I haven't read them before, and I really liked that concept. It's kind of a middle-of-the-road mystery. The concept, the formatting of it was my favorite thing about it. I read The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I've heard this book called very twisty, and there is a twist that happens, but it happens really early on, and it was something that I predicted from like chapter 2. And so there wasn't really a mystery to me. It is thrilling in terms of like there are kind of high stakes for what's happening, but it's not like a mystery you're trying to solve anymore at that point. Really what this is about is it is about an abusive marriage. So if you like to read books about that specific topic, then I think this one, you know, does it well. It does portray certain elements of that kind of a relationship well. I do think the ending possibly excused the abuser's behavior a little bit too much, but a lot of the things about the women and how they get into and why they stay in relationships like this, that stuff really spoke to me. And I do wish that I had had a warning going into this book that that was really what it's about. So FYI, heads up. Next is Final Girls by Riley Sager. This is about a main character who was the sole survivor of this massacre that happened a long time ago when she was like camping in the woods with a group of friends. There have been other events like this in the past, and the sole survivors are called Final Girls by the media. I did really like the concept of it. I didn't like the characters that much in terms of, I feel like you can feel they're written by a guy. Riley Sager is a pseudonym for a male author. This had a couple of twists in it, and one of them was so obvious. I'm just finding so many mysteries very obvious these days. And the final twist was not obvious, but it wasn't really convincing me, so I liked this. It was thrilling. I was really interested in it. My favorite parts of it were the flashbacks to that cabin in the woods where the massacre happens, as you slowly find out what happened, what led up to the girl getting away. Those were really campy vibes and very thrillery, so I liked that part about it. And then lastly, I read The Last Time I Lied, also by Riley Sager. This one is about a woman who, she was at a summer camp when she was in school. Her 3 cabin mates all went missing. The camp dissolves, and now it's like, I think 15 years later or so. It's a long time later, and the camp is coming back. The owner wants to like revitalize it, and they have invited our main character to come back as a counselor, and so she decides to go back because she wants to figure out what happened to her friends back then. The mystery, like the final mystery of things, was like a little bit lackluster until the epilogue, and then the epilogue happened, and that's what really made this book for me. I do think this is better than Final Girls. To me it was. I liked the characters better, I liked the mystery better, I liked the suspense better. That's everything. It was a pretty good couple of months reading wise for me. Let me know what you guys have been reading lately. I have so many video ideas that I really want to work on, but I'm also just having a really good time being a mom and playing with my kid, and like our weekends are so packed now that that's really the only time I really have to film, and I just have so much else going on, and sometimes it's just really hard to get in front of the camera, but I hope to at least continue to give you guys wrap-ups throughout the year, even if they are a couple months apart. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!